Hello and welcome everyone. I'm so excited to have all of you here. My name is Vasif Beg and I'm the product marketing manager at Cloudways. And this webinar is all about the intersection of artificial intelligence and web hosting. Specifically, how Cloudways is using artificial intelligence that can help solve you real painful server management problems. And to dive into this, I have the perfect person with me. I'm thrilled to introduce Ayaz Ahmed Khan. If there's an architect or expert behind integrating AI into the Cloudways platform, it is Ayaz. He has been on the front lines building the technology that helps solve some of the most challenging situations that agencies, freelancers, and developers face on a day-to-day basis. So Ayaz, welcome to this webinar. Would you please introduce yourself to everyone?
Thank you, Vasev, and thank you everyone for taking the time out to join this webinar. In addition to what Vasev said, I also am one of the oldest members of Cloudways, and I was part of the very small team that we had that built the first essentially MVP for Cloudways and then launched it and then washed it through multiple iterations, scaled it up across customers and the team. And so over the years, almost more than a decade, I've spent time in different functions across Cloudways, including engineering, research, and particularly a couple of years in the technical support organization, working alongside our technical support engineers, talking to customers, solving their issues on tickets and other things. And as Vasis said recently, I've been more focused on figuring out how we can integrate AI vertically into Cloudways in a way that it provides value for customers as opposed to just slopping on something that's just on the superficial level. So that's my introduction. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Ayaz. And to all our viewers, if you have any questions or anything related to this webinar, please put them in the chat and we'll discuss them towards the end of the webinar. Now, as we know that AI is everywhere right now. It's in our content tools, it's in our design software, and it is writing emails for us now as well. But for the web hosting industry, it is about infrastructure, right? It is sensitive. So I asked to set the stage for this webinar. I wanted to ask you, how is AI actually being used in the web hosting space today? And what is the direction that Cloudways is taking with regards to AI?
Yeah, so if you look at if you look at the AI industry in particular, it's moving pretty fast. There's a lot of change happening, and it's really difficult to keep up outside of whatever work we do in the cloud hosting industry. But specifically in the hosting industry, when we started working on this, we saw that, and it still is the case today, that different companies are going in a path where they're opting for solutions that are easy to implement and are there on the face of it. So things like using AI to generate content or using AI's multimodal abilities to generate images and stuff. And then a seamless transition from there into website building, which is, use AI to generate websites. Now that's where you transition into what's made popular by tools like Lovable and Replit, which is vibe coding. You give a prompt and then it generates something. And that translates into a website that you probably want and do. So those are the things that we see most of our competitors work on, although it is now starting to change into, go into different dimensions. But those are the things that are easier to implement. And those are the things everybody else is doing around, and it makes sense to do those. At Cloudways, we've been working closely with customers for a very long time. And because I've spent time dealing with customers myself, I understand the kind of issues that customers today deal with. It's a complete spectrum. There are common issues that are pretty easy to debug, all the way to very, very challenging and complex issues that require very smart engineers to come up with some innovative solutions on how to do that. And so we realized that I think with vibe coding and with website building, that is sort of like a one-off thing. When you're starting from scratch, you could use that to build a site up. But once you go live and then you start getting traffic and then you start to scale your business up, there is a lot of issues that come up on your servers, on your applications, that you have to deal on a frequent basis. And those issues are not always very easy to solve. And so that is where we saw the niche that we wanted to tackle on. Because if you look in the industry, not just in the web hosting industry, but everywhere else, tackling these kinds of issues, which we call the site reliability sort of engineering issues. What's gone wrong with your site, what's gone wrong with your application, why isn't it performing? If there's traffic coming up, why isn't scaling as well? Why it's going down? These are very, very challenging issues to solve, and it's not just for us and not in the cloud industry, but all over, different industries wide. And so what we call AI SRE is a very challenging problem to solve. And so we thought, we have this tribal knowledge over the years working with customers to understand what kind of issues they have, how do we solve them, and all of this. We thought this was the place that we should sort of figure out how to integrate AI to make, trying to debug or triage those issues easier, and then cut down the time it takes for not only a customer but also our technical support engineers to figure out what the problem is, and then move from there. And we thought this is the place that's going to create a lot more value for more established businesses and more serious customers who want to scale up with Cloudways, as opposed to just enabling AI to provide contents and images and other things. And so if you look in the industry, there are other players that are starting to tap into this field, but there's not a lot of concerted effort being made. Part of the reason is this is a very challenging problem to solve. And so for us, this is the one thing that we've been doubling down on. And so essentially, when we built Cloudways up, and over the years, one of the ambitions that we had with Cloudways was that we wanted the whole platform to be self-sufficient in the sense that it should be able to automatically detect common issues that happen on servers, and then eventually from there go another step forward where it just fixes those as soon as it detects it. And so before the advent of not AI, because AI has been around for a while, but before the advent of Gen AI, which is the generative part of it, which made all of this really possible and famous, we were building this up, but of course it was pretty difficult to do and we could never got around to it. But when all of this became possible, all of these breakthroughs in that, we decided that was the right time to start making use of AI and leveraging it to be able to walk towards that ambition of ours to build that self-sufficient platform. And that is why we started working on the Copilot thing and tackling these specific challenging issues, which is particularly different from what most of the industry is focusing on today.
Sounds amazing, Ayaz. I love that you mentioned saving time and reducing stress because honestly, that's what every developer is facing right now. And 65% of their time is wasted on non-core tasks like, infrastructure management or solving the repetitive issues that you have mentioned. So, Ayaz, can you tell us, just so our viewers have a clear understanding of this amazing solution, if you could explain Copilot, what exactly is Cloudways Copilot? And just as importantly, what is it not?
So, as I said, I think if I'm being technical, I would say it's an AI sort of SRE kind of tool that we have. But ultimately, what Copilot does is that it plugs into our existing monitoring system that is sort of checking different heuristics on the servers, and it raises alerts based on those heuristics. Now, we have always had the Cloudways bot available on our platform, which was one part of that equation where it just monitors if something's wrong on the server and then it raises an alert. But that alert has traditionally not been very helpful because it does not provide you enough or at all any context to be able to figure out, what the exact issue is, what caused it and what not. And so we use that as a sort of a trigger mechanism to figure out, we know something's wrong on the server, but how do we figure out what exactly is the problem with there? So that is where Cloudways Copilot comes in. It starts investigations to figure out what exactly is the root cause that resulted in that sort of alert or a problem to come up. And then once it identifies what the exact root cause is, it will give you a couple of remediation steps on how you as a customer or alone or with help from technical support could go about and fix it. And these remediations obviously are not very generic. They have to be within the context of Cloudways because the environment is fixed and a customer can't just go ahead and do something with root. So we can't suggest remediation that says you just do it with root. And so this is what we started with, a very deep level, root cause analysis of what the problem is, what caused it, and how would you go about fixing it. And until recently, we started enabling the smart fix functionality as well. So if it's an issue that we can fix on behalf of you, we can go ahead and do it instead of trying to go into the platform or talking to somebody to figure out and fix it on behalf of you. And so this is what Cloudways Copilot is today. And it focuses on a specific set of issues. We'll talk about those, but essentially just debugs, identifies the root cause, gives you remediation steps, and actually even provides you an option or one click to go ahead and actually fix that problem for you. It's not today as it stands today. It's not a general purpose chatbot. You can't go ahead and ask just specific questions about KBs and stuff. We have something different for that. This is a true AI sort of SRE tool that plugs seamlessly into the infrastructure, into your servers, and you don't have to trigger it anyway. As soon as there's a problem that our monitoring system detects today, and we cover that specific issue, it's going to automatically start investigating it. And within a couple of minutes, it will give you a report that tells you all of the things that I talked about. And so that's what essentially Cloudways Copilot is today.
Thank you so much, Ayaz. That was really helpful. Now, moving on, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind, and I'm sure on every viewer's mind too. There are some big questions around Copilot, and with all the speculation around AI lately, it is hard to know what to believe, right? So, our customers, our community have some burning misconceptions around Copilot that we need to address. So, Ayaz, what do you say? Let's clear these misconceptions one by one so they can rest
Yeah,
easy. So,
that's correct.
first off, basically, the biggest one we hear from our community is that people think Copilot will replace human support. What do you have to say about that?
So I know if you read what's happening in the AI world, you'll have people who are making these doomsday sort of predictions about how AI is going to take over jobs, and maybe eventually after a long while it might do that. But today, the way we look at sort of the SRE kind of field, it is a very difficult problem to solve. And so, as I said, when we work and we do work today as well, but when I was working directly with customers, the kind of issues that we were dealing with and we continue to do, it's a complete spectrum. You have these easier to solve issues and then very challenging ones. And I think there's a set of common issues that happen sort of repeatedly for customers. And while those are not very complex to solve, they are still time consuming because the steps that you need to take to identify the issue can take time. So, for example, a disk level issue where you need to figure out what exact source is taking a lot of this means you need to traverse the entire file system to be able to figure it out. And so if the bigger the file system, the more disk space you have is going to take a long time. And so we think that there is a class of issues that can be easily, quickly, and handled in a much better way with Cloudways Copilot, leaving the more complex issues for our talented human engineers, because then they're trying to give the best support possible, depending on how complex the issue is, and then trying to figure out, how they can think outside of the box and come up with unique ways on how to solve it. So that has been our initial goal, and that's still our goal. That's why we build the tool up. That's how we see it together. So I don't know how the rest of the world sees, but this is how in the SRE space today things are, and that's how we look at it. Again, this is a pretty challenging space, problem space to solve. And I don't see it, replacing humans, at least in the near to mid short term, midterm in particular.
So, as Ayaz mentioned, our human support, our human engineers are not going anywhere. They will always be there to help you solve those complex issues. And Ayaz, another big fear among our community is that people believe that Copilot takes action without permission. They believe that they're not in control. So, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, so that is so when we talk to some customers every now and then, that's one of the concerns that comes up, and I think we need to do a better job of making it clear for customers and how all of these things. And that's part of the reason why we wanted to do this webinar in a Q&A fashion instead of a different one, so that we can specifically talk about these things. So Copilot has today two particular areas that it works on. One part is that it does the investigation and it gives you a rundown of whatever we identified and how do you go about fixing it. And then the second is if you trust the system enough, there's a button there for Smart Fix that you can click on it to actually go ahead and solve it. Now, this is the part where users do feel a little concerned because their understanding is that once they click this button, Some AI runs loose on their servers, and it has write access to things, and it can go ahead and change things around. Now, that is not how it works today. And I think one of the reasons why we built Cloudways the way we did is we were very cognizant of the fact that we don't want an AI running loose on the server. And so there are different layers through security and legal and all other things where the system is built in a way where we follow the least privilege principle, in the sense that when it's performing investigations and doing other things, we give it enough access as it needs to be able to debug this, and not the whole access to the whole server. And so we work very closely with each investigations, and as we move along to see what other accesses it needs. So it's done through this. But the smart fix is kind of interesting in the sense that if you look at, for those of you who are familiar with, how AI tool calling works and how function calling works, a little bit technical, I'll touch upon it. But essentially, when the AI or the Copilot is actually debugging a problem, it has these specific tools available. Now, these tools are our own recipes that we have built ourselves, that we control it, and we run it ourselves. But when the AI is trying to identify what the problem is, it will also identify, hey, this is a specific tool call, or this is a set of tool calls that you should call with these parameters to be able to fix this. And that's the extent to it. The actual smart fix that happens is just like any other platform operation that you would run today on the platform, be it adding an application, deleting, adding a domain, or whatever. It's 100% in our control through deterministic playbooks. And so, and there are different layers of sort of, security and restrictions in place. So we don't go ahead and actually do something that's untowards or not, or that could cause harm. So that is the part that we're going to do a better job of, explaining and making sure it's clearer to customers. But rest assured, the moment you click on a button or the smart fix button to be able to fix it, you get a review of the changes that it's about to make. And then those changes are made in a deterministic playbook or a runbook that we have, just like any other operation on the platform. So that's one thing that, I think is going to take a while, but once customers start to use it and realize that it does, go back and actually do what it's telling you to do, and it actually gets the problem away before they can start to trust it fully. But it's also, part of our job to make sure we, clear it as much as possible. So the smart fix, again, it's not an AI running loose on your server with the right access. Again, it just identifies what needs to be done, how to fix it. But how exactly we go and fix it, we do it ourselves in a very controlled, deterministic fashion.
Perfectly explained, Ayaz. Thank you so much. Another concern among our community is, and this is an interesting one, they believe that Copilot is the same as the support chatbot.
Yeah, so we talked about this. I think that's one confusion that customers do run into who are used to our traditional intercom support, because we've had it for a while. And because with part of that intercom support channel, we also have what we call the Fin bot, which is a bot that will, ask you or answer very common questions through the use of KBs and RAG and other things. And so there are some folks, and it's very natural because for them to confuse Copilot with actually the Finbot. But these are two separate things. Finbot is just something that goes in and looks at the KBs that we have, the knowledge base articles, and any other knowledge that we have encoded into the system through all the time that we have spent doing support with customers. It does not identify, it does not do any investigations, it will not debug, it will not find the root cause, and certainly it will not give you an option to actually go ahead and perform anything on the server. Copilot is today a complete site reliability engineering tool that we have, which is going to perform live investigations on your servers and identify issues and provide remediations, as well as go ahead and fix those problems on your behalf if you choose to ask it to do that. That's the big main difference between the two.
Right. Last but not least, people also believe that Copilot will not scrutinize issues as deeply as they would or the support would. So, what do you have to say about that?
So, so there are two things. One is with users on our platform, because this is a managed platform. There is a certain level of flexibility that you have in terms of how much access you have to the systems. And so, because you don't have full root access available, there's a physical limit to how much you can debug a specific problem. Now, if it's a simple enough problem that you can identify through the use of whatever limited logs that are available through the master user or the platform or anything else, then that's fine. But if it goes beyond that, then you're sort of limited in how well you can debug this. Now, the other option is that you talk to a support engineer, and they, of course, can go to any depths available within the scope and the SLA that they look after. Now, the way we build Copilot is that or the way the Copilot debugs is just like the human engineer does. It's gonna talk to the server, figure out, run commands, understand what the output is, what's happening with the server, and it will trace a sort of a route in order to get to the root cause. And just like a human being, once it gets to a point where it realizes, hey, I think this is a red herring, I need to move into a different direction to debug this, it will do the same thing. So essentially, as long as the specific use case is covered by Copilot, it's going to come as close to the depth as a human and experienced human engineer can actually debug this. So, and depending on, again, how much access we give to specific issues, it can do a pretty deep level of analysis in a lot of cases that we cover.
Perfectly explained, Ayaz. And thank you so much for clearing up these misconceptions. So, viewers, these were some of the biggest concerns we got for Copilot from our community, and hopefully, you guys are feeling a little more reassured now. And here's the thing, guys. 1 in 3 of us are using AI regularly as part of our daily routine, and almost 80% of the people think that AI is actually helpful in solving problems. This is part of a big study that was conducted. So the world is slowly but surely embracing artificial intelligence. Now, I ask misconceptions aside, let's talk about the good stuff, right? Can you walk us through the current key capabilities of Copilot? And secondly, what kind of issues or use cases, can it cater to right now?
Yeah, so I mean, we have a pretty heavy roadmap that we'll talk about at the close of this. But today, what Copilot does is, again, it investigates, figures, so what we call triaging, figuring out what the root cause is. It provides remediation steps, a couple of those steps that are relevant to the Cloudways environment, relevant to what you can do, and relevant to what you can do with help from a support engineer on your servers and your applications. And then the smart fix that we have available. So right now in its entirety, these are the three things that make up the Cloudways Copilot today. Of course, the value of this whole product really shines when we look at how many actual use cases we cover. So as I said, we're very, very particular about how we open up Cloudways across servers and applications and what level of access we give. And the downside of this is that we have to be very sort of iterative in the kind of issues that we cover. So we know there's a whole slew of issues that happen on our servers for our customers, and those are divided into server level issues and then there are application level issues. Today, we target server level issues, particularly because we have a lot of experience doing this over the years. And so in particular, within the server level issue section, we have things like debugging issues that result from a malfunctioning web stack, which means that any of your web servers or your database servers are malfunctioning or have a config issue or are under load. It should be able to debug those. And then you have these host-related issues where, for example, if you get a lot of traffic or you have bots hitting your service too much, it can cause your server to intermittently become unresponsive. We tackle those as well. One of the most common kind of issues that we have are disk related. So, servers running out of disk spaces or disk inodes, which take a while to debug. And so we tackle those and identify what are those files and directories that you need to either truncate, figure out how to optimize or get rid of in order to be able to free up that space. And then we also look at the specific backup issues that we have. So we have our own managed backup solution that a lot of customers depend on to have their servers and applications backed up. But looking at the kind of alerts that we get, there are a lot of issues that happen with those backup systems over time. And some of those can be systems of not having enough disk space or having some other process running, having a lot of traffic coming into your site when the backup process was running. And so that is a class of issues that customers don't have a lot of visibility in because of the kind of access that they have. But ultimately, it still hurts them because if that breaks the backup, that means that your server might still be running, but it might not be backing up your important files. on a daily basis or a weekly basis, whatever the frequency is set. So we try to identify what has caused that and also present solutions on how to go about and fix it. So these are the initial use cases that Cloudways Copilot targets today, and our goal is to continue to increase those use cases because, ultimately when you look at a solution like this, we have customers who come up and say, hey, something happened on our server and our site went down, but look, Cloudways Copilot didn't come up, and that is extremely understandable and very frustrating. And the reality is that that specific issue was not the one that we covered today, and that's part of the reason why I said we have an iterative process. We don't let it run loose on the server to figure everything out. We make it as restrictive and as specific as possible to make sure it is as safe as possible for customers as well. So if there's an issue that's happening for a customer that's not covered by Copilot today, you will not get an alert or an investigation from Copilot. And so that is also something that we need to do a good job of sort of, making or helping customers understand, the extent of Copilot's ability. And so internally, as I said, part of our roadmap is increasing this really coverage, because an SRE tool will not, in fact, give you the ultimate value if it does not cover enough issues that customers have. And so that is the thing that we constantly work on. What are the more common issues? And so that's how we triage them. We look at our support data, we look at our tickets data. We talk to our support engineering teams to understand what are those common issues that you have customers constantly, coming up with, or, causing them downtime and all those sorts of issues. And how do we translate them into, Copilot sort of investigation recipes and then fix it playbooks. And so that is a parallel stream that continues to, be worked or is being worked on by our team. So, releasing new use cases, even releasing new recipes on how to fix those specific issues for existing recipes. Because, if you take an example of the web stack thing, you have what we call the Thunder stack and now the new Lightning stack. You have multiple layers of the Thunder stack. You have Apache Nginx, you have the databases and other things. Issues can be with any of those layers, and those issues don't always have to be, the same ones. They can be, different ones. So there's a broad horizon that we have to tackle there, and so we sort of iteratively keep on adding more ways to identify those, more ways to sort of fix those as well, and then cover other types of issues that customers continue to have. And so that's what Copilot today has and what it tackles.
Thank you so much, Ayaz. That was really helpful and quite comprehensive. And the fact that we are targeting the most repetitive issues is going to save hours of frustration for our customers as well. Now, let's make this more real. Let's step into the shoes of a customer for a moment and imagine a server level issue pops up and suddenly their site goes down. Let's walk through what manual triage typically looks like and how anyone would navigate it manually. So first things first, the client reports it that the site is down, which can easily be 30 minutes or more after it actually went down and you don't even know about it, right? Next, you begin investigating. You are manually digging through the logs, you're checking plugins, you're trying to find the culprit of this issue. Now that's another 30 minutes gone, or even an hour minimum. Once you think you have identified the problem, the next step is, testing potential fixes. You might restart services or reconfigure some settings and to see what resolves the issue. But that process can also take another half an hour to an hour. And if those fixes don't work, you reach out to the support team, and the support team definitely take their own time to investigate, which can add even more delay before the issue is fully resolved. So by the time everything is fixed, total downtime can easily reach to 3 to 4 hours. And the real problem, the real takeaway from this manual triage process is that every minute spent on troubleshooting is a minute taken away from your real client work or business growth. So you're losing revenue, you're losing conversions, you're losing customers. And that's basically the painful reality of manual triage in front of us all in solving server issues. Now, as could you show us the other side? How does Copilot, handle this similar situation? Can you walk us through the steps from the moment an issue appears and how does Copilot react to it?
Yeah. So before I do that, I think it's important to double down again on the fact that Copilot will only work on the kind of issues that, or the sort of high level issues or categories of issues that we currently tackle today. If it's an issue that we don't cover, it's obviously going to affect your site. It's going to cause issues. Maybe it might even raise an alert with Cloudways bot. But if we don't today cover it, Copilot is not going to actually, sort of investigate and do it. So the moment when your site sort of or your server runs into any of these issues that we cover, we have a monitoring system in place that will raise an alarm internally, and you might see it as part of the Cloudways bot that something has happened. But the moment that alert is raised on the system is the moment where Copilot's investigation gets triggered right away. And that's the point where Copilot behind the scenes starts investigating what exactly is wrong on the server, what could have caused it, all the symptoms, anything just lying around, or a runaway process running, or a big file hugging something up, or a specific web service, or a daemon being down, or whatever. So it will complete its investigation, and it will give you a summary of what exactly the investigation was all about, what caused it, and then a couple of remediation steps, as I talked about. And if this is a specific issue that we cover as part of our smart fix recipe, then you'll have a button available that you can click on to solve it. Now, as a customer, you have two options there. You can read the investigation. And when we talk to customers, a lot of them say the investigation alone is just helpful for them to figure out, and even the remediation steps give some ideas on how they can go ahead and fix it. But those remediation steps are not always going to be, things that you can do with the kind of access that you have. You might still have to go and talk to a human support engineer to do something that you don't have access to, such as changing some configuration in a web service or deleting a file that you do not have access to and stuff like that. But if there's a smart fix button available there, and the moment that you click on that smart fix button, it doesn't right away go. So again, the moment you click on the smart fix button, it's not going to right away make changes on your server and fix it. It will first give you a preview of what it's going to do. It could be a config change. It could be a couple of files that it wants to delete. It could be something that it wants to block at some specific layer like Immunify or whatever, or something else. And once you identify and you understand that this is thing, and you feel comfortable enough to trust it, then you can click on the confirm button, and then it will start the deterministic process that runs our own playbooks to actually go into the server and fix that problem for you. And if it's successful, you will see a success sort of notification there. And then, the problem goes away, the alert goes away, and your site is healthy or your server becomes healthy. But that's the entire flow today. And the bulk of, and so, what I wanted to point out is that once you work with customers to debug these problems and find solutions, one thing that you see is that most of the time is taken in the triaging step, the debugging step. That is where you figure out, you find a path where you start from, then you understand, is this the right path that you're going? While debugging it, you change the path and find another one. So debugging is what takes the most time, and then actually coming up with a fix is probably a straightforward process. Unless it's a very complex problem, which we discussed, which is still better suited for talented human engineers who can come up with even more sophisticated solutions to do that, or simple solutions to do it. But today,
Right.
that debugging time with Copilot gets cut down a lot. So, within a couple of minutes, you have the system that has already debugged what the problem is, if not less. And then it presents the ways to fix it either manually or through a smart fix button available. So that's the entire process that you have to take to be able to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you, As. Okay, that comparison basically painted a great picture. The reduction in the number of steps and the speed difference, honestly, it is incredible. And that's exactly why I need to ask this next question. I'm gonna play the devil's advocate over here, As. How accurate is Copilot? We all need to hear the numbers. I know everybody wants to hear it. Can you please share the success rate of Copilot and its capabilities?
Yeah, so this has been a process because this problem space is, again, as I said, and I'll keep repeating that because it's a thing that's important in this industry, is that solving these problems are difficult. Because it's been a while now, so the accuracy percentage that we see today is almost 90+% for smart fix, and this is a constant process. So in the AI field, we call these things evaluations. So those of you who are familiar with it, what we call the AI evals, which is you throw the AI to solve a problem and it generates something out of it. And then you try to understand how successful, how accurate, how sufficient that thing is. And so that can be done either through a slew of different techniques. One is throwing another AI model that sort of judges that. But the real value is what we call the human feedback loop there. And so we have these constant loops where we review from time to time, the insights that have been generated, and we try to understand how accurate they are. And if they're not accurate, we go back and realign the AI. So, for example, maybe sometimes an AI would suggest something that might not sufficiently solve the problem if we go ahead and try to fix it that way. So there's a human engineer that's going to be, weekly or every week looking at those, trying to understand those, and then feeding that feedback back into the AI to realign it so that the next time it's not going to make that mistake of doing it. And so it's a, again, continual process. The accuracy continues to improve. But over the course of the last few months, we've been seeing that's hovering over 90+% in terms of the investigations that it does. Now, the other element to this is how accurate the fix is. Now, this is also another challenging point because investigations are sort of broader in the sense that it will give you a different ways on how to fix it, and then it will tell you why something happened. But then the fixes have to be very, very specific. And so for those fixes to be very, very accurate takes a lot of work and takes a lot of those human reviews to understand if it's a disk level issue, and we have identified that there's a directory or a file that will sort of free up space. How do we make sure that it frees up enough space on the server to be able for the problem to go away? And so this is a constant process we do. And I think the accuracy for smart fix has been increasing pretty significantly over the course, and it matches around the same 90+% per day.
Those are incredible numbers, Ayaz. I guess at this point, I'm guessing everyone is watching, thinking, okay, where do I sign up? So let's make it practical. You guys must be thinking, who has access right now? What are these credits we keep mentioning? So let me clear that up for you. Firstly, access. All new users who sign up with Cloudways and become paid members will have Copilot included as part of their experience from the get-go. And as for our existing users, we are gradually rolling out Copilot in phases. So with the goal of opening it up for everyone. But here's the thing, if you want it enabled on your account right now, just reach out to our support or customer success team and they will enable it for you on demand. Now let's talk about how Copilot works. It operates on a simple credit system. So every time Copilot generates an AI insight report, it uses 1 credit. And when you use that one-click smart fix to resolve an issue, that's also 1 credit. And these monthly credits expire at the end of each calendar month. They don't roll over to the next month. So you either use them or lose them. Here's the part that I'm most excited to share. We have a promotional offer running right now that's honestly too good to pass up. We are giving you 5 AI Insight credits and plus 2 free smart fixes monthly, which is valid for 12 months from the day it is enabled on your platform, and it is open to all Cloudways flexible customers. Now, these credits will be renewed monthly for up to 12 months, and you have to pay $0 for it. It is completely free. Now, I believe this is an amazing opportunity to test Copilot out, put it through its paces, see how much time you can save, as there's zero risk involved and you're in control at every step. So go test it out, and we cannot wait to hear your success stories. So as last question from me, and then we'll move to the questions in the comment box and the ones we received before the webinar. And this is an important one. What does the future look like for Copilot? What's the roadmap? What's coming next?
Yeah, so I'll talk about the roadmap. So we have a pretty aggressive roadmap with respect to Cloudways Copilot. And as I said, that's because the real value of Copilot is when it caters to a broader sort of set of issues. So one of the things that we continue to work on and will accelerate is adding more and more use cases on the server level front, so that the chances of you having an issue and then finding out Copilot does not cover is pretty low. And so that's our ultimate goal there. So most of these issues we want, or we have an ambition for Copilot to cover. So as soon as they happen, we detect it, Copilot does an investigation, and you have something available that's going to help you, debug further or actually fix it. The second thing is we are now starting to, and so before that, I mean, traditionally Cloudways has been in terms of the technical support that we provide, we focus a lot on the server level issues. And most of the application side of issues have been traditionally out of scope for us. We have talented engineers who will help you, guide you in a specific way, but they're not going to go and do a very deep level of investigation if it's a application level issue, and certainly not fix it for you. So you have to rely on other means to do it. And so I think that's where the real value for customers is from the perspective of Copilot. And so that's the next thing that we're working on, is we're going to start covering application side of things. So we're going to start with the common set of application issues that customers across the board have, and then as soon as we detect those, Copilot is going to be able to debug it down to the root cause and offer you not just remediations, but the same way a fix button to be able to go and fix those problems for you. And I think that's going to be a lot more useful for customers because there's today not a lot of alternatives available on the platform where you can get somebody else within the team to fix it for you. So this covers the specific area or the sort of coverage area that Cloudways is going to tackle into server level issues, expanding that, and then tapping into the cloud application sort of level issues. We're also looking on, providing on-demand investigations. So today, the system is sort of vertically integrated in the sense that you cannot trigger it on yourself. You can still do the smart fix, but you cannot trigger an investigation. It has to be tied to the monitoring system and to an issue that happens. So if your server has no issues happening, that's great. Copilot's never going to get activated for you. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But if there's something happening and you want Copilot to go and investigate for you, even if there's no alert today, we don't have that functionality. So that is the other thing that we're working on, having these on-demand investigation checks available across the platform, where if you think, hey, my CPU has been consistently high, but it hasn't generated an alert, I still need to figure out what's causing it. There'll be a button there you can click, and the Copilot will start that investigation and tell you, hey, this is what's happening, this is what's going on, and potentially also give you a way to actually fix this. So these are the three main key areas where we're focusing on Cloudways Copilot. And particularly, one of the things that we continue to look for is having customers give us as much feedback as possible. So as Wasif said, if you don't have this enabled, just reach out to support to have this enabled. Otherwise, we're doing a gradual rollout so that we make sure that the system is able to withstand traffic and stuff like this, because some customers have servers that generate a lot of alerts, and then there are customers who hardly ever do that, and then there's customers who have a medium frequency of doing this. But ultimately, once you use the system, your feedback is the most important for us. I mean, do you think this is intuitive enough? Do you want something else? Do you want to talk back to for example, the Copilot to ask clarifying questions? Do you want something else? Do you want it to just fix it automatically for us instead of just pressing the button, whatever? All of that feedback is very, very helpful for us. So if you do use it, we'd love to hear from you how we can improve the system or even change it to make it more valuable for you.
That sounds really exciting. As the roadmap you shared, it's full of exciting stuff, and I'm sure it's going to save a lot of time for our customers so that they can focus on, the real client work and real business growth. Now let's move to the Zoom chat box and see if you have any questions. Okay, so Ray is asking, I don't think I've ever reached out to Cloudways. What is the email address I need to request enabling Copilot on my account? So basically, you just have to log into your account. You have to put out the help bar, basically help menu, and you select support ticket, and then you can submit a request from there. So then on there, our support team will take care of that request and enable Copilot on your platform. Let's see if we have any
Yeah, I
other
think
questions.
Ray had another, not a question, but he was hoping for a demo of sort. And I understand, Ray, it's a very valid point, but we sort of intentionally kept this in a Q&A fashion because we wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit more about the background of these things and how these things actually work. Part of the goal is for our customers to have a little bit of transparency in understanding how AI is being used today and how they can actually trust it. And so that's why it was intentional, and we didn't keep a demo specifically as part of this webinar. But
Thank you, Yas.
once you have this feature enabled, it's pretty intuitive. You can go ahead and use it yourself. um, as long as you have issues on the server. Again, you don't have any issues on your server or any of the ones that we cover, it's not going to kick off. You won't see it. And we have some customers who say they don't see it because they don't have any issues popping up at all, or the ones that we actually cover. But if you're sort of fortunate or unfortunate enough to have an issue and it kicks in, use it. Let us know what you think. Do you think it's intuitive enough, or is there a way we can make it better for you? And that'll be very helpful.
Thank you, Yas. Robert has also asked, what is the cost for this? So, Robert, there's one plan called the starter plan that is currently, there's a promotional offer on it for 12 months. Like I explained, you get 5 AI Insight credits and 2 smart fixes for 12 months from the date is enabled on your account. The second plan that we have is called Growth Plan. It's for $10 per month and you get 12 AI credits. And the last plan, which is the Scale Plan, it is for $20 per month and it starts from basically 25 credits, and you can also select between 25 credits, 50 credits, or 100 credits, and it goes up to $80. So these are the kind of plans we have right now, and I also shared the link in the comment box as well, so you can go there and check them out yourself. As for other questions,
Yeah, I think Juro has a couple of interesting questions.
right.
I'll just tackle those. So the first question is related to monitoring and how we do this. So we have our own in-house monitoring system built in that integrates with your servers along with the platform, and it has these specific checks and metrics that's going to constantly monitor across the servers, looking at the basic specific metrics like available disk space, free RAM usage, and CPU and stuff. But then it can also, and it does also look at things like is the state of your web server or the web stack healthy enough? Are specific web services healthy enough? Is the server responsive enough? What does the free disk look like? What is the state of backup look like? And so it taps on top of that. And so Copilot is, I think that's in terms of the Copilot being external to the server. So we made a very deliberate and conscious decision of not putting Copilot directly on the server. So there's no AI stuff happening on your server because that would take resources out of your servers that's running your precious critical mission critical load. What we do is we run it as part of our own infrastructure, so it's not outside, but we will sort of run commands on your server to get specific data out and then inform the path that the Copilot takes in order to perform that investigation. And then your second question about Copilot monitoring comparing to New Relic. So again, New Relic, I mean, it's a big suite of things. It has server level stuff. It has application level stuff. It goes into a lot of different things. What we have today is a monitoring framework that is designed to be configured and built for infrastructure monitoring, and then you write checks and specific sort of pieces of code that can determine what the state of the system is on top of it. And so we use that, and so we specifically use it not just to check the state of the server, as I said, but also other things like, is the application in the healthy state? Does it have the outdated version of WordPress or whatever? And now we're starting to move into using that system to do monitoring, application level monitoring as well. Now, number three, as I mentioned, I think this is the on-demand thing that's going to help you a lot that we're going to be releasing in the next couple of months, if not sooner. Probably we're hoping to release it sooner. But once we have this and you're on your platform and you realize maybe on the monitoring section that your CPU is going up and down, you'll have a button there that you can press to perform a Copilot-based investigation, and it'll tell you exactly what was causing that spikes to come up and what you can do to actually fix it. So that on-demand is not there yet, but it'll be soon, and you can use that to debug your issues.
Thank you, Yas. I don't think we have any other questions in the comment box. So if you guys have any questions, you can put them in the comment and we'll address them. I think that is it. So, well, everyone, that wraps up our deep dive into Cloudways Copilot. I asked, thank you so much for walking us through everything, the vision, the capabilities of Copilot, the use cases, the issues that it covers. as of this day and also the impact of it. Honestly, I think I speak for everyone watching when I say we are excited to see where this goes. And to our viewers, thank you for sticking with us. If you haven't already, take advantage of the 12-month promotional plan with free credits. Jump in, test it out, and see how much time you can save. And also, your feedback matters a lot to us. Use Copilot, go test it out, and let us know what is your, success story with it. Or if you have faced any problems with it, let us know as well. We'll take care of it. And if you want to learn more, head over to our website or reach out to our support team. Yes, they are not going anywhere. We'll also be sharing a recording of this webinar soon. So if you missed any part or want to revisit something, you can keep an eye on out on your inbox. So guys, stay safe, keep building, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.